It is true, retirement is hopeless and just a pipe dream for the vast majority of people out there. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can break out and retire on time, even early in some cases. But sadly, I know that's not going to be true for a lot of you guys out there because you're not going to break free from these 5 things that we're going to talk about today. But you can choose to be one of the ones who does break free of all this if you avoid the 5 things that make retirement completely hopeless. It is vital that you're one of the ones that break free if you want to have any chance of retiring at all. Because what you know about retirement and financial freedom is a complete lie, and that right there is exactly what this channel is about. It's about the truth and alternative routes to financial freedom and retirement early, so make sure you subscribe because they don't want you to know this information, and I want you to be completely free from all this mess. So the first way retirement is hopeless: by believing the lie about retirement. Look, it's sad to say, but the math is very, very clear, and more importantly, the statistics are very clear. The American dream of having a house with a white picket fence and 2 dogs and 2 kids and 2 car payments and all the other trappings of the traditional American life make it to where basically you don't have a retirement in the future because you're sacrificing your future for the American dream right now. Now, I'm not saying any of those things are bad or anything else like that. Individually, on their own, they're not. But when you piece it all together, the vast majority of the people go from having a secure retirement in the future to living paycheck to paycheck right now today, and they just kind of blame it on life. They kind of blame it on, well, that's just the cost of living, when the reality is they're actually chasing that American dream and that dream retirement that doesn't actually exist. Everybody I talk to says they're going to get there one day, but they're not willing to change anything in their current lifestyle right now, and just basic math tells me you're never going to get there. Sure, maybe 50 years ago when pensions were a thing and a lot of other programs like that were very, very robust, you could afford to do that. But the reality in today's world is that's no longer an option for the vast majority of people, meaning that if you believe you can live that way and still retire, you're probably believing in a lie. Number 2, you don't live well below your means. I know this kind of ties in with number 1 a little bit, but if you are not just living below your means or at your means, if you're not living significantly below your means, you most likely are not putting away enough into retirement in order for you to actually be retired at some time in the future. And guys, I don't need to argue this. There's not really a discussion here because statistically, that's where the vast majority of people sit. They do not have enough in their retirement accounts to retire comfortably, meaning a lot of those folks are going to have to work a lot longer than they thought they were going to have to work. And unfortunately, more than half of those people are going to work the rest of their lives. So don't argue with me. That's what the numbers say. And I know if I sit down with somebody and we go through their finances and they're not living well below their means, unless they have a large pension or something else like that, they're one of the lucky ones that has one of those, I know they're never going to actually be able to retire, and it's completely hopeless. You don't want to be in that situation. You have to live well below your means. Number 3, you carry too much bad debt. All right, I know this really isn't the place to discuss good debt versus bad debt, but a quick little, snippet, if you want to just kind of throw a quick definition on it. Good debt pays you, bad debt costs you money. That's kind of the easiest way that I can place this. So for me, when I look at people's finances, how much of their debt actually pays them? If your car is not making you money, that is a debt that is bad. If your credit cards are not making you money, which they most likely you bought a lot of things that aren't making you any money, your credit card debt is bad debt. And yes, even your housing debt, if your housing is not paying you money, i.e. you didn't buy a duplex per se or a triplex or some other property where you're able to draw actual income from it, to me, I would definitely consider that more on the bad debt side because you are having to pay into that each month instead of being able to take that money and put it into investments instead. I understand your house can absolutely be an asset as well, especially if you hold it for a long period of time and you have nice appreciation. You're in a great area, you're in a great schools and all that stuff like that. It can absolutely be that. And I'm not saying that it's not an asset, but in general, as a general rule, if you have more bad debt than you have good debt, there's a problem there, and you're most likely never going to be able to retire. Now, before you start yelling at me too much about your house being a great debt and all that other stuff like that, think about this for a second. When you go to retire, unless you are actually doing something with that money, i.e. you're going to sell it and cash out that property, if you plan on living for it for the rest of your life, well, it's technically bad debt, especially, unless you are paying off a 30-year mortgage or a 15-year mortgage and you plan on having it paid off whenever you retire. If you're paying that mortgage into retirement there, it's a bad debt. It's not paying you anything. It's not putting anything in your pocket. And more importantly, if you retire at, let's say, 65, and then you still have 10, 15 years left on your mortgage, you're forced to be paying into that. And when are you ever planning on cashing that out and turning it into an actual asset that pays you? My guess is by the time you're 75 or 80, whenever that mortgage finally pays off, at that stage it becomes an asset for you. But if you're not planning on ever using it for anything, it may be an asset for your kids one day, but it's definitely not an asset for you. And it makes your retirement even harder if you have a mortgage out there, which is another thing you have to account for to pay for when you're finally done working. Number 4, you don't invest enough or at all. When you sit down and look at your budget every month, if you are not contributing significantly to investments on a set schedule, every single quarter, every paycheck, however often you get paid, if you are not setting aside money for investments for that future, you're not going to be able to retire. Your retirement is absolutely hopeless. And I'm not just talking about your 401k, guys, and put money in there. That right there has even proven to not be enough to get you to retirement. You have to basically maximize your retirement accounts and then start investing also with your individual and personal accounts. Now, you can do that through real estate, you can do that in stocks, you can do that through a side hustle and a second business that then produces income. It doesn't matter, but if you are not investing outside of the traditional norms, or you're not investing at all, you are never going to be able to retire. Those are just facts. The math is very, very easy to prove that out. If you want to be able to retire, you have to invest. Not just a minimum, you have to look at investing as much as you can and look to increase the amount you can invest every single month, every single year. And number 5, you don't have a defined plan to retire. What do you actually plan to do when retired? I mean, a breakdown analysis. What is your housing situation going to be when you're retired? How much is that going to cost you? Every single dollar, everything from yard maintenance to, water bills, electric bills, all that sort of stuff, maintenance on the house. What exact dollar amount do you have planned out for that monthly in retirement in order to take care of that? How much travel do you plan to do, and what are you you think you're going to spend every month on average for that travel? And what car do you need? Do you need a car in retirement at all? If so, how much? How much do you plan to drive it? How much is that going to cost you? How often are you going to replace that car? Do you have all that already laid out and planned? Just basic things like how much money do you need to live every single month, regardless of what all expenses come up? Do you have that planned out? How much is your healthcare going to cost you as you age? Do you need long-term care or not? What are those costs, and what exactly do you need? Not only now when you're younger in retirement, but as you age and your health deteriorates, what are you going to need then, and how are you planning to get there? How much Social Security do you plan to withdraw, and at what age do you plan on withdrawing that Social Security, if it's there, depending upon your age, whenever you get to that age? What's your backup plan if it happens to not be there, or if it changes significantly? What do you plan to do then? All of these questions should be really, really, really easy for you to answer if you already have a plan for retirement. These are just basic questions, guys. I didn't get real deep in any of these questions. I can go a lot deeper with a lot more questions that you need to have defined answers to. If you do not plan your retirement out have a detailed plan for it, you are planning to fail and will never actually be able to retire. It's going to be completely hopeless for you. But the good news is, this channel is about alternate routes to retirement. They want you working forever. I want you to be completely free from this mess. And I know it's probably blacklisted by society, but it's the truth, and we're going to get you there. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on anything, because they don't want you to know any of this. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.